Welcome to the Leaderish Podcast with your hosts, Regina and Doris. Hey, Doris, how's it going?
Hi, Regina. It is going wonderfully well. I've had an incredible week, lots to celebrate. I had an event that I organized and ran and hired myself as a speaker on Tuesday, and I think that's the topic we're going to talk about today. So I won't share too much about it, but it was a fantastic event. And Wednesday, I had a great coffee meetup that will hopefully result in a workshop. And yesterday, I went to a fundraiser and got to see some talented people at Nashville's Got Talent. It's just been an incredible week, so much to celebrate. How about you?
Wow, Doris, that sounds amazing. Well, like you, I've had a really great week. I had an idea a month ago that I wanted to start a meetup with talent management professionals all over the United States and the globe if they're interested. And we did our first one today. It went really well. We were supposed to break out into breakout groups, but it was a rather small group and we were having such a rich discussion. We decided to continue the discussion as the whole group. It was fabulous. It went really, really well. I got to meet some new people and listen to other folks' insights, and that was a lot of fun for me. And then the other thing that I did this week, I had a whole bunch of expiring licenses for MBTI. And so I offered them free over LinkedIn. I had several people take me up on that opportunity and did all of those debriefs this week. It was so much fun, A, getting to know people, B, talking about their personalities or their preferences, not their personalities, their preferences, and digging in with them and helping them solve problems through the context of MBTI. So it has just been like a really fulfilling week for me.
That's amazing. And I know you were telling me about that live session for the last couple of weeks where
Mhm.
you were thinking about it, and I knew that it was happening. And I am so excited that it went well. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was really hard for me to pull the plug, to just put myself out there and just be like, hey, if anybody in talent management wants to talk about some of the stuff that I'm interested in, I couldn't find another forum like that.
Mm.
And it was hard for me to put myself out there. Once I did it and I finally put it out there, I was like, all right, now I got to follow through. And it ended up being a really great experience. I've scheduled three more of them. They're monthly. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens with it. Might be wildly successful, it might not. So we'll see what value it brings to those who join.
Well, congratulations on that. Sounds like a
Thank you.
great event.
Yeah, thanks. So, Doris, what's in your cup?
Well, I have a tea that I'm brewing right now. It's not even in my cup. I'm going to put it in my cup because I think it's probably steeped for 10 minutes. And I'm going to put it in my baby Yoda cup. And it is Manuka Honey Hero Rayon Manuka. I think I might have to say that again, but it contains apple, licorice, ginger, rose hip, cinnamon, Manuka honey, and lemon peel, and a few other things. Oh, I see clove on there, mallow blossom, marigold blossom, some really interesting ingredients. And it is now officially in my cup. So I'm going to take a sip. I don't even know if I've tried this tea before. So let's see if it's any good.
I wonder what the verdict will be.
Oh, yeah,
It's good.
definitely. It's very good. Yes.
I mean, you
Good.
couldn't even pronounce it. So I was a little concerned that when you cannot pronounce a drink, it can't be good. I got to tell you, I was on a fence here. So the fact that it's delicious and yummy is quite surprising to me.
And Regina, what is in your cup?
Oh, the same old Doris, sparkling water, mango flavored today. I have been just a creature of habit lately.
There is nothing wrong with that. I'm usually a creature of habit.
It makes me happy.
Well, you're having mango this time. I think last time you had blackberry, so I think you are changing it up just a little bit.
A little. And the funny thing about the whole sparkling water thing is that I remember sitting in my leader's offices. Her name was Emily, and she grabbed a LaCroix. She just had, room temperature LaCroix cans in her office. And she's like, do you want one? And I'm like, Oh, sure, I'll try it. And I remember taking a drink and going, this is disgusting. And I actually said to her, this is disgusting. How do you drink this? That was probably 6 or 7 years ago. Fast forward to today when I drink a ton of sparkling water. So, Emily, if you're listening, thank you for introducing me to sparkling water and accepting my judgment. Fun stuff there. So, Doris, today we are talking about a topic that is really close to your heart.
Mhm.
Do you want to fill us in a little bit before we dig in?
Sure. I mentioned earlier that I helped put on an event on Tuesday, and this is from my insurance background. So I'm a CPCU, which stands for Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter.
That sounds fancy.
It is kind of a mini master's degree in insurance.
Ooh.
I earned my designation many, many years ago, and I have been active in the Nashville chapter, and prior to that, the Los Angeles chapter when I lived there. Every chapter in the country, or almost every chapter, tries to host, in addition to the monthly meetings, an annual bigger meeting. We call it either I Day or All Industry Day. The primary purpose of that event is to honor the new designees, meaning the ones that earned their designation in the past 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, which only takes maybe 15 minutes of the meeting, we wrap it around lots of speakers and networking and good food and a generally fun day. And so this year we had 5 speakers. And since I was hosting the event or helped put on the event, I hired myself as a speaker. I
Yay.
didn't pay myself, so I was free, but I did hire myself as a speaker. And the topic was empower your communication, which is a
Ooh.
topic that is definitely near and dear to me. I love communication. I love written and spoken communication. I know we've talked about Toastmasters in the
Mm-hmm.
past. Also, when I did Strengths Finders many years ago, my number one strength is communication. So it is something that I really enjoy. I think I even have a book somewhere secretly inside of me that maybe one day will come out. I have been working on this presentation for quite a few months and I've been tweaking it here and there. And I finally had the opportunity to share it in front of a live audience, which I did on Tuesday. And it's really about how to empower your communication, just as the title states. The key elements that I use are what, who, why, and how. And then I dive really deeply inside those 4 words and what that means and how you can improve your communication.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with what. When you say what with empowering your communication, what are you referring to?
I'm really referring to the very basics. So written communication, spoken communication, and then non-written or non-verbal communication.
Okay.
And so the written and spoken are probably the more obvious answers. So your emails, your proposals, your if you're writing a book or a blog, that's going to be the what. And then the what of the written. The spoken can be spoken in front of 100 people, as I did on Tuesday, but it can also be a team meeting with just a few of you or a one-on-one meeting that you have either with a direct report or even with your manager. So that would be the spoken. But I spent a lot of time on the unspoken or the nonverbal communication. The studies kind of go back and forth as to a real number. So I don't know that there's a real number, but it's pretty high. Some studies say that as much as 70% of what we say or even write is nonverbal,
Mm-hmm.
that our facial expressions, our body language, our tone. So if you're writing an email, you may have a tone in that email or writing, let's say, a really short text, even, and you're writing that, and you don't even realize that you've got a tone in the words that you're writing. My point of that in the presentation was just be careful with that. And
Mm.
if you are, for example, if you're going into a team meeting and you've had something maybe unrelated to work, you've had some bad news, you're frustrated about something, or maybe you were late in traffic, you might bring that into your team meeting and it is contagious. Your attitude that you bring into that meeting, everyone can feel it, and the energy in the room can be consumed by the attitude that you bring and the nonverbal communication that you bring to that meeting. And the same can be said in the written communication. If you're angry and you write something, my counsel to you is to hold off. Don't send it. It's fine to write it. Don't put anybody in the two. Wait until tomorrow. Wait 24 hours and then read it again, or let someone else read it. Let someone that you trust, a friend or someone like that, read your email before you send it, or even a larger proposal as you're putting it together.
Yeah, I've experienced both of those, both me sending out communication, whether that's spoken or written, and me receiving communication, where the sender's intention is maybe not aggressive or whatever,
Mhm.
but the words that they chose or the nonverbals that they displayed
Mhm.
created that feeling of aggression or discontent or dissatisfaction. I think being aware of what you're saying and what is the right thing to choose if you're going to have a difficult conversation with someone, probably a email is not the best way to do it. If you are struggling with someone's performance, an instant message is not the best way to do it. That's when you really have to bring in the spoken. However, on the flip side, if you just need to get a report out today by 2, you may not have to leverage spoken communication for that. An email or an IM would be just fine.
Mhm.
So there is some discernment there on which
Yeah.
form you choose, when, and in what situation.
Keep in mind that that report that you need by 2, if you ask them for it a week ago and they haven't done it, you might add a tone to that email that the person takes the wrong way.
Oh,
So it might be a gentle
absolutely.
reminder, but you're taking it as, oh, someone is harassing me to get it done. And don't they think I'm going to get it done? Of course I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
So even then, you've got to be careful about that.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you for that. Anything else on the written, spoken, or the nonverbal that you wanted to touch on that maybe we haven't touched on so far?
Not at this point, because this was more of that basic, what are we going to send? We do
Yeah.
dive a little deeper into that when we get to the other 3 words, the other three key elements that I talked about in that proposal or in that presentation.
Oh, great. Well, then let's move to the who then. Let's keep diving in and getting a little bit deeper. When we think about the who, what are we trying to consider here?
We're trying to consider the audience, really understanding the audience at a deeper level. So it's not just, okay, I've got to get this piece of communication out, but really understanding what's important for the audience. And I started the segment with a cute little video from YouTube. It's a little boy, probably 6 years old, that is trying to get some things out of his parents. He shows us the wrong way to do it and then the right way to do it. So it's important to his dad is quality time with his son. So the first approach is just, hey, dad, I want some ice cream. And of course, the answer is no. But when he comes back and says, hey, dad, let's talk about your week and I miss you. Can we talk about it over ice cream? And the answer is, well, sure we can, son.
Cute.
And he has a similar tactic with his mom. Something else is important to his mom, but it's really cute. And it hits home that you've got to consider your audience when you're communicating. If I email you to Regina, do you want to have lunch next Tuesday? Okay, that's pretty simple and basic. But if I am going to talk about something that's a little bit more complicated, or if I'm going to give difficult news or even happy news, or I'm trying to sell something, I need to think about who my audience is. And
Mm.
one of the things I also did in the workshop is I dove a little deeper into DISC. And I know we're planning to talk about DISC a little bit later, but DISC is about 4 styles and 8 priorities. And the 4 styles are D for dominant, I for influence, S for steady, and C for conscientiousness or conscientious. The D or dominant style is somebody that's very results driven, action oriented, outgoing, assertive, maybe even to the point of being aggressive. Whereas the I or influence style is also outgoing and action oriented, but they're more on the enthusiastic people relation perspective.
Hmm.
when you go to the bottom half of this pie shape, I know that our audience can't see this, but if you imagine a pie shape and you divide the pie into four quadrants, the upper left is the D that we just talked about. The upper right is the I. And then when you get below that line, you have the S and the C. And the S is for steady. And it is also people oriented, but it's more at an introverted level, somebody that wants everyone to get along, a people pleaser. And then the C, that last quadrant, the conscientious style, is someone that is also introverted, but focuses on accuracy and stability and asks lots of questions. So I spent some time diving into what DISC means. In fact, I had the audience take a sticky note and apply the sticky note to their name tag based on the color. So all of these four segments have a color associated with them, and stick on their name tag the color associated with their style.
Okay.
And then I talked a little bit more about the style and the differences in the style, and that you really need to stretch into another style sometimes so that you can get your point across. So again, understanding your audience. If you are an S, you're a steady person, you have an idea for a proposal and you want to share it with, let's say, your manager or someone on the leadership team, and they have the D style. And you might have to stretch into that D and be a little bit more bold and outgoing and assertive, which is not natural for you as an S, but you might have to stretch to get your point across. So again, knowing your audience, knowing what's important for your audience, so that D style person is more likely to listen.
With the D style, I always say like bullet points are best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can put it into bullet points and then at the very top of your communication, put the action first. I had a girl that I used to work with it. She used to call it bluff, bottom line up front. So,
Mm-hmm.
and she would even put on her emails, and especially to me, I do have some D. I'm a little bit more of the I, but I do have some D. And so she would put out her emails, bluff, and like, here's exactly what I need you to know. Everything else
Mm-hmm.
below that line adds value, but here's your bottom line up front. You don't have
Yeah,
to wait till the end. D's love it when you put stuff at the beginning. What's interesting is an I, for instance, might really like the, hey, I hope your day's going really well. Got to spend time with my kids last week. I hope you did too. Whatever. Some pleasantries,
yes,
where the D
yeah.
just wants to get straight into it. I'm interested though with the C and the S, what does that look like for them?
I'm glad you asked that, because the D also might need to stretch into that S. So if that person that likes the bullet points wants to talk to somebody that maybe needs more than bullet points, that person needs to stretch into that more people pleasing mode. And rather than being assertive and, all right, we only have 5 minutes for this meeting, well, maybe you need to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes and have a conversation first. And
Oh,
that's from
okay.
that D to an S. Now, a D to a C, they're going to be more similar in, let's just get to the point, and being more questioning and analytical. But the D person is going to be more outgoing, get it done quickly, where the C style is more, no, let's take our time because we want to get it done right. We want to be more of a perfectionist. We want to ask all the questions. We want to do all the
Mm,
analysis and the research. And the D is like, nope, we got to get it done now. And so again, that's an opportunity to stretch. So both of you might need to stretch into each other's zones to understand what's important. So the C needs to understand what's important to the D and vice versa.
yeah.
If you have that information, and that's one of the things I love about the DISC assessment, is that if an entire organization, if everyone has taken the assessment and they understand where everyone sits in that style chart, they have a better idea of how to stretch into those other styles when they're trying to have that conversation and bring that point right home, knowing your audience or understanding what's important to your audience and approaching it from that perspective when you're trying to communicate something important.
So, one of the things that I heard that I just wanted to call out is that when you're thinking about the who, the what comes back into play, because based on your personality, written may be better, or
Mm-hmm.
a conversation might be better.
Yes.
So that is something to play into as well when you're thinking about it. The personality style, will they actually prefer
Mhm.
written or in-person spoken communication? Very
Oh,
interesting.
absolutely. You've got to think about that. And I'll share an example, and I I won't call out the company because actually I know that there's more than one company that's done this, that's laid off people via email. And I can't imagine a worse way to start your day. You open up your email and it says you are laid off and you have 30 minutes, your all of your access codes and your key cards. If you go to an office, all of that's going to be cut off in the next 30 minutes. And to think that the leadership team thought that that was a good idea is just dumbfounding to me, quite frankly.
Well, and there are other situations where layoffs have happened over a very large Zoom meeting. If you're on
Mhm.
this Zoom meeting, you no longer work for us, which again is a really terrible
Mhm.
way to communicate bad news. Obviously, they didn't think about the individuals and how the individuals' needs play into the communication
Right.
in either of those situations.
No, they wanted to be efficient about it and get it done. And it was probably a bunch of D styles that made those decisions.
Ah,
I had to pick a
I like
guess.
how you just pulled that back. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm definitely sure that it wasn't the steady, supportive, collaborative people that made those
No,
decisions. So
no.
I can see that. Although there's nothing wrong with being a D. We need results people, right? We need folks
That,
that are going to get in there and get it done and are direct and
oh,
brief,
yes.
be bright, be
Yeah.
gone. Like
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
okay too. That example also tells me that when you're making large decisions, make sure that you pull in somebody who has a different perspective than you.
Yes. When you're dealing with a large company or a medium-sized company, you will likely see a pretty even distribution of the four styles. It might not be
Mm,
exactly 25% in each style, but you're more than likely going to see somewhere close to that. We'll say
yeah.
20 to 30% in each of the styles, especially when you start getting to companies 100 people or more size.
I would think small companies, though, might be a preference towards a certain style. So in small
Mhm.
companies, if preference is towards Ds, then they hire a lot of Ds. But as companies grow and that critical mass hits a certain percentage, then it starts evening out a little bit more.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the why. How does the why fit into empowering your communication?
The why might be the most important of those key elements. You always want to have a clear purpose on why you're sending the message, and you want to share that clear purpose. I talk about the book Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Mhm.
And he talks about it at more the corporate level and making sure that a corporation understands its why and that those corporations are more likely to be successful if they understand the why. I chose a couple of companies and asked, for example, could you tell me what the why is of Disney? And very popular company, probably pretty easy. And I had some great adjectives that came to mind. I would say that would be bringing people joy is the why behind Disney. And it really hasn't changed in the, I'm not sure how old they are, 70, no, they're 50-year-old history, 50-plus-year-old history of the organization, bringing people joy. And I had a couple of other examples that I brought it back to insurance and what is the why behind insurance.
Mm,
And I would say protecting people's assets
yeah.
and putting them back in a place where they were before the catastrophe happened, whether it's an auto accident or whether it's health related or your home has been destroyed or damaged due to a storm or a fire. Really, the why behind insurance. But where I challenge them is if we have the why as an industry, but understanding the why for each individual company. And we had a lot of insurance companies that were represented at that event, and every one of them is going to have a slightly different why. And I challenge them all to go back to their organizations and make sure that they understand the why. And if they don't, to talk to the leadership team and have the leadership team make sure that they share the why. But then it also boils down to every type of communication. So if you're sending an email or if you're giving a presentation or you're creating a proposal or you're even hosting a meeting, understanding the why behind everything that you do when you communicate. So, for example, I asked the question, how many of you have read an email and the meat of the email you didn't even read it until maybe paragraph 3 of that email? Of course, everyone raises their hands because we've all seen that. Well, what if you started the email with the purpose right at the beginning? And you don't even have
Mhm.
to be a D to want that, a
Right.
D style. If it's in the subject line or the first sentence of the email, or if you have a meeting and you go into the meeting, I asked a question there too. How many of you have been in a meeting and after 60 minutes, you still didn't know what the purpose of that meeting was? Of course,
I'm raising my hand right
yes,
now.
everyone chuckles and everyone raises their hand. What if you start the meeting and you have a very specific and granular purpose for that specific 30, 45, or 60 minutes? So rather than having a generic topic, we're going to talk about marketing today. No, let's get very specific and say, okay, today in these next 60 minutes, we're going to talk about the 3 key strategies we're going to use to increase our customer base by 20%,
Mm.
or whatever that might be. Or if you have a project that you're working on, making sure that rather than it just being a general, this is project X meeting, no, we're going to talk about, we're on step 45 of 100 steps, and we're going to talk about steps 45, 46, and 47, and what we're going to do in the next 7 days to accomplish those steps, or whatever it might be from a project perspective. So be very specific and granular. So again, going to the purpose. I also talked about reinforcing the why. You might have to repeat what the why is on a regular basis. If you are a team manager or a leader in a corporation, you might need to repeat that constantly. Make it part of a vision or mission statement so that everyone that is involved with that project or that company understands what that why is and can reiterate it on a regular basis.
Patrick Lencioni calls that the CRO. CRO stands for Chief Reminding Officer. That is, as a leader, a lot of times what our job is to remind
Mhm.
people why they are here, why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And if you understand that as an organization, you're more than likely going to have a better retention. If you don't understand the why, there's a good chance you will lose interest in being at that company, being part of that project, and your heart won't be in it, and the effort that you give won't be as good as if you truly understand the why and the purpose that you have in that project or in that organization.
Yeah. And it also keeps everybody moving in the same direction, right?
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
if you're all geared on where you're going, why you're going there, and how you're going to get there, then you are aligned and moving forward
Yes.
together.
And that is so important. And as I've said, you can granulate that down to even every email that you send or proposal that you're going to write,
Yeah.
understanding that and incorporating the organization's why as well as the specific why for that project or that email.
And then how does that connect back into the audience?
Going back to understanding what's important to your audience. So this is even though I talked about the who a second ago, I include audience and why so that you're always keeping that audience in mind when you're writing something. So
Hmm.
we talked about it before, but the why, making sure that you are communicating specifically to that audience. So if you are talking about a project to your team versus a leadership group, those that how you communicate to those different audiences, even though it's the same subject, could be different. So being sure to keep that audience in mind when you're communicating out.
Yeah, and I think as a leader, there are times where you might be communicating to a frontline group of employees, and connecting with their why is going to be very different than connecting with the finance team,
Mhm.
right? Or the HR team or the legal team, right? So finding what connects with that audience and not reusing the same thing every time, putting a spin on it to connect with them, but still continuing that role of your chief reminding officer to
Mhm.
remind everybody why we're doing this.
Yes.
I love it.
I love that.
Anything else in the why section that you wanted to make sure that you covered today with us?
I think that the last bullet that I have on the slide is storytelling. And I love the idea of telling stories to wrap around a message that you're trying to send. And anytime that you can include a story to help your audience understand the why, because stories can do that. I love to encourage people to tell stories. And we all have stories to tell. We have lots of stories to tell. And one of the examples that I gave is that I encourage people to donate blood all the time. I know I encouraged you to donate a few months
Yes.
ago, and you did it, and I'm so appreciative of it. But I tell stories behind that. So I don't just tell people you need to donate blood, but I tell them a story about my mom and her need for blood the last month of her life, or that in America, someone needs blood every 2 minutes. So I try to wrap stories around that. And I know we're not talking about Red Cross and blood donations today. The point is just wrapping a story around it. So if you understand your why and you're talking about a project or your company's why, being able to wrap a story around that is really important.
Also, I love it that you're wearing your Red Cross jacket today. It
I,
does
I
fit
love
in really
I
well.
love this jacket.
Too bad we're not doing the videos
I
yet.
know. I wear this jacket a lot. When it wears out one day, I'm going to be very, very sad.
Oh, maybe Red Cross will give you another since you hype them up so much.
Maybe so.
I love it. Well, let's move into the how section. So, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's go a little bit deeper into how we communicate and how we choose the way that we communicate.
Yeah, the how is really getting organized with your thoughts. And before you even get organized with your thoughts, one of the things is just to have those thoughts. So you know that you want to communicate X. Think about all the stuff that you want to say about X and brainstorm with yourself. This might even be a great time to use Chat GTP, is brainstorm with Chat GTP, or pull out some sticky notes, write sticky notes and put them on the wall, or use a virtual sticky note tool. I like Miro, for Miro, for example, that I can put all my ideas in one place, and then I get them organized. And then I start thinking about what is the content going to look like once I have all of those thoughts organized. And I might throw half of those sticky notes away because I realize, oh, that's not important for my audience. I think back
Mm.
about the why. So I'm going to throw all the ideas, throw the spaghetti against the wall, and then to pull off the spaghetti that's not important, pull it together in a cohesive thought process, put that email together, that proposal together, or the presentation that I'm going to give, pull all that together in a very organized manner and method. And that is going to hopefully wrap everything up in a nice, neat little bow. And the audience will be able to resonate with what I'm saying.
So now you have what it is that you want to communicate. You've weeded
Mhm.
out the things that you don't communicate or that you're not going to communicate. You put all of that together in whatever that communication looks like. What
Mhm.
are your thoughts around drafting and redrafting and practicing?
I think it's really important, especially on those complicated messages. And in fact, on a draft message, you might want to have someone else read it. Again, going back to that trusted advisor or that trusted friend. And if you're going to communicate something that could be a difficult message, don't just type it out and send it. Don't just call a meeting and share it. Think about what you want to say and practice what you want to say. We talked about Toastmasters many times. When I give Toastmasters speeches, I practice those speeches probably 20, 30, 40 times, depending on what the speech is, before
Hmm.
I give it. And the same thing can be said when you're giving a larger presentation or when you're creating a proposal. You want to draft those messages first and read them over the course of a number of days. You might see where you've made some mistakes. I know you can find grammatical errors and typos
Yep.
when you read it a second, third time, but sometimes you can even miss those. I know if you read something too many times, I have been guilty of missing simple grammar mistakes and typos that someone else points out. So it's also a good idea to have additional people read it and review it. I mean, that's why we have editors. If you're writing a book, you have an editor read and reread your material because you have probably missed some things. There are things in your head that you think you put on the page that probably aren't there, or vice versa, that things you put there that aren't necessary. And that's another big thing about when you draft a message is try to keep things short. Try to get to the point. And those sticky notes I talked about earlier, throwing those sticky notes away. You don't have to write war and peace every time you send an email. Keep it as short as you can. Try to get the message across because people aren't going to read more than about 3 paragraphs.
Yeah. They say that people won't read more than what they can see on one screen of their phone.
Mhm.
It's gotten smaller
Yes, I agree with that.
as we've kind of changed to
Hmm.
a more technical age. I remember the time of long
Hmm.
emails, that time is gone. So the shorter you can get, the better. One of the things that I struggle with is a good strong close. What are a few things that you might recommend for a good strong close?
One of the adages I like to talk about is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
I love that. I use that all the time. I didn't know you use that.
I do use that. And it's that rule of threes. Threes are always it's a great number for people to remember things. And it's also a great way for you to really hit home the point that you're trying to make. So
Hmm.
you start out. So I started the presentation with here are the 4 key elements, the what, who, why, and how. And then I get into the meat of each one of those 4 elements. And then at the end, I can remind everyone what I just did. I just shared those 4 key elements again. And I
Yep.
might even ask, so was there one in particular of those 4 elements that I talked about that resonated most with you? So I can kind of approach it as a question, or trying to remind people, or even ask them, so which element was the most important and why, and have them repeat back to me. So it's another great way to have people remember that. And that might be more in a presentation form than an email form,
Yeah,
but also a call to action. I mean, when you send any communication, the point of that communication is you want someone to do something with the information,
that's right.
whether it is they need to do, like, literally go do something, or maybe it's just to be entertained, or maybe it's an introduction to someone. But what is the call to action? What do you want people to take away from that communication?
Also, it's great to put that call to action in the subject matter. So, your title and then take action, or your
Mhm.
title for your review, or your title and for your information, or your
Yes.
title and no action needed. Whatever that might be, to let them know early and often what you need from them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Love that.
And I mean, even think about the emails that you're more than likely to open as you're receiving emails. You might judge those emails as well. And if you see save 50% on some item that you really love, are you going to open that email because you see the save 50%? Or do you read it and think it's completely irrelevant to me because it's not important to me?
I love to save 50%.
Who doesn't love to save 50%?
Amen, sister. Yeah, a good subject line is very helpful too. But and having that call to action in your
Mhm.
email, some people like to bold it. I like to put my bottom line up front with that call to action and then add it into the subject line as well. That's very
Oh, I do
helpful.
too. Yeah. If I don't see a good subject line, I may not even open that email.
They are saying that subject lines are becoming more and more important
They
in
are.
email communication, but that also goes for your spoken communication as well.
Mhm.
Making sure that people know the call to action. You don't want to leave things to be assumed by your listener
No,
if you're
no.
speaking. Speaking of call to actions, let's talk about a couple things that we will apply based on our conversation today. Maybe I should go first since I'm the one doing most of the listening today, as you help me with empowering my own communication. So for me, I think a few things that were really important to me. Of course, this strong close, because I struggle with a call to action quite often in my spoken and written communication. So definitely something that I'm taking away there. I'm glad we kind of brought that up a few times in our session today. And That next thing for me is the why and really getting clear on the why. Why am I having this meeting? Why am I having this conversation? Why am I sending this email? And then what is my why for my business? Making sure that I'm really
Mhm.
crystal clear on why do I do the things that I do.
Oh, those are great. Those are great.
Any new things kind of stick out for you today as you've done this now a couple times and you've talked to, a live audience and now you're talking to a podcast audience about this? Any new realization that came to you today?
I don't know about new realization, but as I was practicing this and where I feel maybe I still fall short would be the storytelling. So I've been to presentations that talk about storytelling and we all
Mhm.
have a story and understanding the best story to tell when you're trying to get your point across. And sometimes it's okay to do research on those stories or to take stories from other people. I mean, give credit to the other person. Don't try to share that as your own story. But when you hear a good story and you want to share that and you know that that story is going to really hit home and put a nice bow around the package that you're trying to share in your communication, I think that is a great way to do that. So I'm going to continue to work on my storytelling process and get better at that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, great stuff today. But Doris, I'm wondering, how are you going to fill your cup this week?
I'm so glad you asked that. And that has been a question I've been thinking about all day long. And in fact, I realized when you asked that the last time, I thought my answer was very lame. And
Lame.
it was very lame. Work and sleep. That is not a way to recharge. That is not a way to refill your cup. And I thought the only way that I really recharge is in little snippets. I don't know that
Mhm.
I do a lot of going away for the weekend or going on vacation or doing long lasting things. I like to do things sometimes in 5 and 10 minute increments. And I'll give you one of my favorite things that we do almost every night. And it's because our dogs demand it, but we take them on a golf cart ride almost every night through our
So
neighborhood.
cute.
In fact, we have a little staircase. One of our dogs is older, and one of the other neighbors was giving away a staircase, and she can't jump anymore. So she very diligently climbs or gingerly climbs up to the back of the golf cart, and the other dog is a little bit more aggressive and or assertive and jumps up. But they love it. They love just to sit there. They hang out in the back of the golf cart, and my husband and I will drive around the neighborhood. I wave at everybody, and it is almost cathartic for me to just sit as a passenger in the golf cart and enjoy the cool breeze
Yeah.
and enjoy the joy of my dogs as they're loving just kind of hanging out and looking at everything. Those are maybe the what how I fill my cup are those little things.
Yeah.
It might be doing connections or Wordle every day or doing the golf cart ride, but I think I fill my cup every day with little 5 or 10 or 15 minute increments as opposed to longer lasting stuff. How
I
about you?
love that. Well, because I always talk about like the big thing that I'm going to do. And I think, Doris, that I miss some of those little recharge moments that I should be taking. And instead, I save it up for a big recharge. I'm not
Mhm.
saying either's right or either's wrong. I'd like to explore doing some more of those little small recharges. But for me, this weekend, I have family coming in town. So I have my aunt and uncle, my cousins, and my double cousins. We call double cousins your cousin's kids. So
I love that.
the double cousins are coming in. One of my double cousins is getting ready next week to move to Orlando for 18 months for marine repair school. He'll be able to fix anything in a boat.
Wow.
So we're celebrating him and this new opportunity, and they'll all be at my parents' house, and we'll spend lots of time with them, and my kids and the doubles will all play together, and they're older, of course, but we'll just have a great time. So I'm so looking forward to that family time. I love my family, so this is definitely what recharges me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That is
Yeah.
fantastic. And I'm stealing the double cousins. My double cousins are in Germany and I never know what to call them. And I'm going to share that I'm going to start calling them double cousins.
Double cousins. It's what we've done since the oldest of the double cousins was born. Her name is Madison, and somehow all the cousins got together and decided that Madison was a double cousin. And now all of the cousins' kids are double cousins. So that's what we got.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Well, you're welcome. Well, that's about it for us today. Hey, we would love to talk to you. All of our links can be found in the show notes. Follow us on this journey as we delve into all things leadership. We would love a review. So if you would take a moment to leave a 5-star review and a comment, we would be forever grateful. And if you're interested in being a guest and you have an engaging topic, please reach out to leaderishpodcast@gmail.com with your desired topic and some information on how we can stalk you, and we'll follow up with you. So, Doris, cheers.
Cheers.